Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jeanette. This is a channel where I talk about movies, TV shows.
These are a bunch of books.
And anything you could think of. If you're new, welcome. And if you're coming back, welcome back and hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to introduce a new review called the Binge Review, which is a new review segment about TV shows that I binge watch a season or the entire show depending on the length of it, because I procrastinate on a professional level. The first show we'll be talking about is The Gentleman, not that The Gentleman, but this The Gentleman. So the log line is: a UN peace officer who holds the title of Duke of Halstead returns to his father's 15,000-acre estate, where he inherits the estate and wealth instead of his older brother. When he learns that the land has become part of a weed-growing empire run by a crime gang, he must navigate a world of eclectic and dangerous characters with nefarious agendas, whilst also trying to protect his home and stay alive, as one does. If you haven't at least watched the show, I highly suggest you watch it before you watch this review, but if you don't want to, that's fine. Before we get started, please like and subscribe for more content. In terms of how the show became a show, The Gentleman is a spin-off of the 2019 film The Gentleman. The Gentleman was initially conceived as a series and presented to studios in that way. Reportedly, the series would have focused more on the Raymond character. However, studios decided they wanted it to be a movie first and take a look at it for a possible TV show later. Guy Ritchie entered development of television series for him to write and direct, inspired by his film, with Moonage Pictures and Miramax Television in October of 2020. And FYI, Miramax Television is now 51% owned by BN Media, which is a Qatari state-owned network, and 49% is owned by Paramount, which we're not sure at the state that it will be once this video has been published. Ritchie was also executive producing alongside the producers of the original film, and Netflix ultimately ordered the series. The cast, including Theo James, Kaya Scodelario, Daniel Ings, Giancarlo Esposito, Peter Serafinowicz, and Vinnie Jones, were announced the week before filming was set to begin, and Alexis Rodney was added in the first week of filming. In June 2023, Max Beasley was added to the cast, and Ray Winstone and Michael were also revealed to be part of the cast through a teaser in January 2024. Production took place in London and Badminton House from November 2022 through June 2023. Filming took place on Longcross Studios and West London Film Studios, with additional on-location shooting throughout the town, including at the Princess Victoria pub and the Tate Modern, as well as areas of Hackney and Islington. Stoke Poges,
no way, we got you.
Poges
in Buckinghamshire, is used for two locations: the location of the prison where Bobby Glass is seen on the roof with his pigeons, and Chucky's mansion is a property of West End Lane. The backdrop of Printworks London was also present during the first episode. So in terms of the story, episode 1 has Eddie Honeyman, a UN officer who returns home to England when his father, the Duke of Halstead, dies. He doesn't die in the beginning, but it's just like he gets injured after a fall, and then once he visits him, he then has like a quick conversation with him before he dies. Eddie, while they were reading the will, he unexpectedly inherits the dukedom and family estate per his father's wishes, bypassing his irresponsible older brother, Freddie. After assuming his new role, Eddie learns Freddie owes £8 million to Tommy Dixon, a vicious goose drug dealer. Eddie decides to sell the estate to investor Stanley Johnson to raise the fund. However, he stops when he meets Susie Glass, who reveals the existence of a large cannabis farm right beneath the estate, established from a financial arrangement between their fathers. Susie agrees to renegotiate terms, with Tommy managing to halve the debt in return for a rapid cash payment and Freddie's participation in a humiliating video. Eddie raises the £4 million by selling the estate's wine collection to Johnston. He finds out that the money is stolen by Freddie, who then places a bet with Sticky Pete's over a boxing match. However, Eddie was able to get that bet back from Sticky Pete's, knowing that Sticky Pete already altered the match to be in his favor. Tommy arrives at the estate to collect the money and film the video. However, when Tommy repeatedly provokes a cocaine-fueled and emotionally drained Freddie returns with a shotgun and shoots Tommy dead. Episode 2, immediately after Tommy's murder, his associate Jethro, who was wearing headphones the entire time of the incident, attempts to flee but is caught around the outskirts of the estate. Susie hires Felix, an underground crime scene cleaner, to dispose of Tommy and murder Jethro. However, Eddie takes pity on Jethro and comes up with an alternative plan to frame Jethro for Tommy's murder and help him flee the country. The next day, John the Gospel Dixon, Tommy's evangelical brother and head of the Scoose cocaine syndicate, arrives at the estate with his henchmen looking for the missing Tommy because they received a weird text from Jethro. It didn't really specify what happened, but it was pretty obvious that something happened. He kind of has this spiritual thing where he could feel that something was wrong. Eddie convinces them that Tommy and Jethro had an argument while they were counting the money, so Jethro may be responsible for Tommy's disappearance. Whilst retrieving Jethro's passport from his flat, Eddie gets into a fight with one of Dixon's henchmen who was inside waiting for Jethro. Eddie ends up murdering the so-called henchman, but is shot during the process. He then calls the cleaner to help set up the murder to make it seem like Jethro was the one that murdered the henchman. After he nursed the wound, Eddie is forced to attend a gala hosted by Johnston, who Susie reveals is a crystal meth kingpin, which is why he wanted the estate. She suspects Johnson wants to expand his drug operation, and he makes her an offer to partner. When Dixon finds Tommy's body in a car somewhere in the docks, he tells Eddie and Freddie that they left behind the shotgun that is connected to their family. Eddie admits that, yes, that is their family gun. Dixon, he starts off being like very stern and very serious, and then all of a sudden he like just yells,
"Do you think I could keep hold of that gun for a while?"
Eddie then asks for a meeting with Bobby Glass, Susie's father, who is imprisoned in a luxury open-air prison due to his wealth and influence. Eddie makes an offer to Bobby, which is to end the cannabis operation in the estates in return for Eddie making even more money for Bobby. Bobby agrees to consider the offer. Finally, Eddie helps Jethro flee the country by having him go on like a tugboat, which will then go to different places and eventually will get to Australia. However, once Jethro is in the boat, he is greeted by Felix. Episode 3. Jimmy, the chief rower at the cannabis farm, loses a shipment when he is conned by a mysterious woman named Gabrielle, who uses her beauty to distract Jimmy and takes his keys. As the shipment is delayed, Susie agrees to undertake a favor for the inconvenience customer Tony Blair, the leader of the Kosovan Albanian gang. And it's not that type of Tony Blair, it's like a younger type of Tony Blair that is on house arrest. They want to see a Lamborghini Hurricane, and the task is delegated to Eddie. So this particular Lamborghini is owned by Mercy, who is a chop shop owner, who Eddie soon suspects is hiding something when he finds a finger in the drawer lying there amongst all the keys of the Lamborghinis. Also, it's kind of weird that they don't label the keys. It doesn't make sense, but when Eddie infiltrates the garage at night to steal the car, he discovers and rescues a captured member of Blair's gang. The member reveals that the Lamborghini they stole contains a hidden cocaine shipment, as Mercy is also a drug dealer with the Colombian backing. Blair deceives Eddie and Susie with a story about a car theft to obtain the cocaine. So during the whole stealing of the car process, Freddie fails to leave in time, and he ends up getting captured by Mercy's members and ransomed in return for the drugs. So given that Blair deceived Eddie and Susie, they decide to bring him in exchange for taking back Freddie. Mercy then brutally kills Blair and lets Freddie go. Susie is impressed by Eddie's calmness under fire, although Eddie's mother, Lady Sabrina, worries about the impact of the growing operation in the estate and within the family. Susie and her crew cannot find the stolen shipment, but Gabrielle contacts Jimmy again to continue the con while her friends light the van on fire. Episode 4. A tour guide takes a group of people to this estate at Bassington. It's almost like somewhat of a museum, but then all of a sudden this like old naked guy with a gas mask and a machine gun or an AR-15 goes after them, and then he dies of a heart attack, I'm assuming. As a result, there's a funeral that happens, and under the pressure of Susie to have to provide them more money, Eddie approaches Max, the newly installed Lord Bassington, offering to construct a cannabis farm underneath his estates, thus replacing the one at the Halstead Manor. Max is receptive, but requires Eddie's help in dealing with a blackmailer. Eddie agrees and meets the blackmailer, Frank, a principled ex-journalist who swiftly escapes. Susie intervenes, and they track Frank down, taking him to meet with Max. Once they get the document that has like this very dark secret and Max throws it into the fire, Frank reveals that Max is kind of a secret Nazi and admirer of Adolf Hitler, even having Hitler's famed missing ball in his possession in formaldehyde. The meeting rapidly descends into a shootout, during which Max and Frank are wounded. Susie uses her enforcers to imitate and defeat Max into signing a land deal with them. Also, the dog eats the ball, which is
ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that? What's that, brother?
Separately, Lady Sabrina has groundskeeper Jeff introduce her to an alternative host for the cannabis farm, a local sheep farmer who's having trouble making ends meet. Susie agrees to consider the possibility elsewhere. Smitten by Gabriel and unaware of her role in stealing the previous shipment, Jimmy shows her the farm and reveals the key details of the distribution network. Episode 5. Despite obtaining 2 new weed farms for the Glass Empire, Bobby tells Susie he has no intention for letting Eddie walk away. Susie enlists Eddie's help when Florian de Groot, the manager of Glass Distributions through Belgium, attempts to leverage a bigger financial cut. Simultaneously, 2 generators are stolen from the farm by the Ward family, who are a notorious group of travelers, aka they're gypsies. Eddie and Susie visit their leader, J.P. Warden, who reveals he knows of the weed operation and wants in. Eddie suggests using the wards as a distributor, cutting DeGroot out of the picture. So Susie agrees, and the new arrangement is proven successful. However, suspicion falls on the wards when 4 million pounds that are just lying around in the weed farm just disappears. Eddie determines that DeGroot orchestrated the theft to frame the wards and resume his position. Everyone else thinks it's the wards, but Eddie doesn't believe so. Eddie and Susan confront DeGroot, and forcing him to reveal Susie's bodyguard, Keith, helped him. What they did was that they poisoned him with a suspicious concoction and have the antidote with them, but then they won't give him the antidote unless he provides the name of the snitch. So Eddie hands Keith over to be executed by the wards, but before he dies, Keith reveals that Jethro was actually murdered by Susie. Not by her hands, but just by her command. This causes Eddie to lose faith with Susie, and elsewhere, Lady Sabrina and Jeff reflect their former affair and the fact that Jeff is the biological father of Eddie and Freddie's sister, Charlotte, who goes back to uni after the death of their father. Episode 6. Despite exceeding the financial threshold for his exit, Susie informs Eddie that it will take another 3 months for the money to be properly laundered and considered profitable. There's a further complication when Chucky Kubra, Susie's money launderer, discovers that her brother Jack is having sex with his girlfriend. At the boxing party, Eddie meets Henry Collins, an ex-army officer and Jack's promoter, who offers to help launder the money himself. Initially, Eddie returns to Chucky when Susie fixes the relations, but he is angered to learn that she told Chucky to delay the laundering process deliberately because he was going to do 2 months, but then she said take as much months and time as you need. Eddie takes the money to Henry instead, prompting an argument where Susie reveals the Glass have no intention of letting the Homemans to leave the Empire. Seeking a way out, Eddie meets with Johnson to enlist his help.
Meanwhile,
Freddie tries to pitch the growing cocaine weed to Susie, implying that he would allow Eddie's murder to take over the estate and continue the operation. Susie rejects his offer, citing
You don't turn your back on family.
at a fight between Jack and a Uzbek boxer. Henry reveals to Susie that he intends to take over the Glass drug empire either peacefully or through a war. Susie refuses and threatens Henry in return. On Henry's order, Jack is knocked unconscious to the point of being hospitalized in the ring. Episode 7. As Jack lies comatose in the hospital, Susie blames Eddie for the whole ordeal. She oversees the assassination of Colin's lieutenant and the Uzbek boxer, but Bobby reins her in, stating that he will handle Collins himself. He also says that she kind of is just making choices and taking action based on her emotions rather than based on her brain and thoughts and everything. Eddie learns Johnson wants the names of the other 12 landowners who host Glass's farms. Eddie and Freddie obtain them from Lord Tibsby Whitecroft, a former Glass associate, and Freddie confesses that he asked Susie to have Eddie murdered, which angers Eddie. Jimmy also confesses that he told Gabrielle about Susie's whereabouts, prompting Susie to threaten Gabrielle. She reveals she works for Johnson and that he is the mastermind behind the thefts of the weed shipment, DeGroot shipping delays, Keith's betrayal, and Collins's attack, all in bids to weaken the Glass Empire. Eddie hands the names over to Johnson's chief of staff, Stevens, but then visits Bobby, hinting at an alternative plan. Susie ambushes Collins and seriously wounds him, but he reveals Eddie's secret meeting with Johnston. In revenge, she calls John Dixon and reveals the truth behind Tommy's murder. Finally, a pregnant Charlotte returns from the university, surprising the family and Jeff. Worried for her safety at the estate, Jeff tells her about the drug empire. Episode 8. When Jack wakes up in a coma, Susie discovers from Bobby that Eddie isn't a traitor, as he had supplied fake names to Johnston. Susie sends reinforcements to help the Hunnams protect the estate, but a shootout is averted when Bobby makes a deal with Dixon. Freddie and Eddie reconcile, whilst Charlotte and Jeff have a heart-to-heart moment in which he admits that he is her father. Bobby reveals to Susie and Eddie that he is retiring and tasks them with overseeing the bids for his empire from Johnston, the Colombian via Mercy, and the Russians via Sticky Pete. He says we're gonna have people send out pigeons with their bids, and whoever has like the highest or a bid that he agrees with, then he'll go for that bid. $20. So Eddie is also inspired to bid after Freddie calls him perfectly suited for the empire. Eddie assembles a consortium involving Tisby, the other 12 lords, and Collins. Susie isn't interested in joining with Collins's presence, but encouragement from Lady Sabrina and Eddie convinced her. After all the bids are submitted, Eddie sabotages his rivals by arranging for Johnson's arrest over tax affairs and the murders of Sticky Pete and Mercy. After Johnson is arrested, Eddie goes to Mercy to tell her that Sticky Pete was the person that overbid her. So then she goes to Sticky Pete and murders him point blank. After she murders him, Henry Collins drives by and kills Mercy with a shotgun. He also betrays Collins and executes him, having never intended to actually work with him in the first place. Impressed, Bobby reveals his retirement was a ruse to test Eddie and Susie's sustainability to inherit the empire one day. 3 months later, with the new state of affairs in place, Johnson joins Bobby in the luxury open-air prison as another gentleman. In terms of this first season, I can understand how the show was picked up, mainly because of the pilot, and it was a really good pilot, pretty well executed, no pun intended. It kind of has it set up to where one incident leads to another incident, which leads to another incident, and it does get a little tired, I would say 3 episodes in, but then they kind of changed the pace a bit. So that's good. There were some episodes that I didn't really focus on that much, and it was episode 4 and 5. I felt that they were okay, but I guess it wasn't something that was really viable for the plots. I think if you take them out, there wouldn't be a lot of plot that would be missing. You can manage the season without those 2 episodes, but also I didn't really think that episode 4 was that strong. I didn't really think that the ad-libs were that great. The ending of the season was decent. I would not say it was good like the first episode, but it does the trick. And it wraps up the first season with this whole hint that a second season might be in the works. Theo James still looks like he is holding a fart, but I would say it's not as distinct as when he was in Divergent. Also, his haircut in the beginning was a bit weird. I would say like about 3 or 4 episodes in, it was kind of, I don't know, it just didn't make sense. Towards the end, it wasn't that bad, but yeah, it was kind of weird. I would say it's even worse than a Julius Caesar haircut, and that was pretty bad. For someone who is a duke, he doesn't have a really great barber, and I'm not sure if this was by mistake or if they were just trying to cover a possible receding hairline. I have no idea. So it's not as bad as Bob the barber. That was pretty bad. The other characters were really great. All the actors were really good and they played their roles really well. I would be annoyed if Eddie and Susie get together, kind of like Sarah and Steven did on the last episode, The Killing. I think they're fine just being business partners. It's a very Guy Ritchie product. If you like Snatch, Rock and Rolla, among other Ritchie films, chances are that you're going to like this show. I bet Netflix, if they pick it up for a second season, I think it will probably last no more than 3, maybe 4 tops, and then cancel it, arguing that they had to due to budget reasons. Overall, I would give The Gentleman an 8 out of 10. As for The Gentleman movie, that would be more of a separate video. There was so much that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't think it would be viable to do both the show and the movie at the same time and then compare the two. I think I might do that in a separate video. That is it for me. Thank you again for watching this video. If you made it this far to this video with my monotone voice and now cracked voice, here is an achievement of a photo of a man who stepped out of an argument and just wanted to talk to someone. If you like this video, hit the like and subscribe button. My goal for 2024 is to have 15 subscribers. Right now it's 13, so if there's 2 more of you, that would be great. I'll see you guys next month. Bye.